Did you ever wonder what a Superman anime would look like? Well, that's pretty much it. So here's a quick review of the first 2 episodes. I think this is a really solid start to the series, setting up a fun ride. And my personal favorite part of Superman's stories, the human side of Superman, Clark Kent. Him being this Kansas boy trying his best to get his life together in the big city while being a superhero.
Hey, wait, look, it's a bird. No, it's a plane. No, wait, it's the subscribe button, so click on it. Okay, I know, sorry for that. Getting back to the video now.
The shows offer multiple things that I have been asking for from my previous Superman video, such as the potential to have an organic progression with the relationship of Clark Kent and the people that surrounding him, having a cool hairstyle in his Superman suit.
You will never let it go, will you?
Shut up. And also doing its own thing with the characters that might surprise comic book fan. Plus, it doesn't seem to ignore the most important character in a Superman story, Clark Kent.
Damn straight.
First of all, Lois that loves Clark is something we don't see often, and the one time that it was explored, it was in the animated universe, and that was kinda skipped, barely touched. So I like that we might get to see those two interact more and learn about each other.
I love seeing him being this relatable guy that a lot of people seem to ignore while talking about the character. Here we get to see him be friends with Jimmy, slowly build his romance with Lois, and try to find who he is as a person, and this is pretty great.
Even though, I have to say that this Lois Lane isn't exactly the Lois we know. She seems a lot like a different take, and her energy with Clark isn't really about her teasing him. Lois seems more shy to hang out with him, but it's cute, you know? They have like a hard time handling each other.
But she still feels true to the character in a classic snarky and sassy Lois fashion.
The thing with my adventure with Superman is that it's not trying to be the animated series, Smallville, or any of the movie or other TV show based on the Superman mythos. No, it's its own thing, and as a reimagining of the classic hero and his world, I think the show succeeds to give us something new, but also to give us something that stays true to the classic. Let's take Clark Kent, that in the comic come to Metropolis and become a reporter specifically in order to be Superman, to be able to know what happened in the world and have an excuse to be where Superman need to go. When in the show, it's not that he didn't want to be a hero, he just didn't know that he would end up having to become Superman. Like, he would always help people in need, but the necessity to show himself as a hero only came after he moved to Metropolis, which is not the case with the original comic.
Which is a pretty interesting take in my opinion.
It's basically the spectacular Spider-Man of Superman's story. Like in the Spider-Man comic, Peter met Gwen in college, but no one really cared in Spectacular Spider-Man that the two meet in high school, or that in the show she doesn't have many friends when she was popular in the comic. Why? Because they don't break the comic character as we know them. They are still them even when modified to fit the new story. I mean, the core of the character is still there. It's the same for the character of my adventure with Superman, at least for now. Even Deathstroke that became like a hot anime dude for some reason, which is kinda weird. He is still a good proto-Deathstroke, as Slade is still, for what it seemed like, a soldier with a sadistic side that has no moral compass and think himself the best. That could later, after taking a super serum, transform into Deathstroke, or at least a more accurate version of him. The only thing they really need to do with the character is stay true to their core, but we will have to wait to see what they do with the character.
The animation so far has been really good. Yes, on the fight scene obviously, but also on the little as important things such as the character facial expression, which really helped to make us love those characters even more.
Making even quiet moments still expressive and delivering visually the character's emotion to the viewer.
As for the art style, it's really good, as it can capture both the serious tension of the fight and the goofy moment of Clark and Lois' day-to-day life. It's a balance hard to strike, but that the show pull off well, where it's not as always super serious looking like Young Justice, but not as goofy as Teen Titan Go or even Batman the Brave and the Bold. It's a perfect in-between, I think. Well, not perfect, but you get my point. When it's serious, it looks serious. When it's goofy, it can look goofy.
Also, did I mention his hairstyle? Now that's a cool one. Better than the ugly black ball looking shit.
That's kinda harsh, bro.
The true hurt. But I get it. You try to become accurate, but did you have to make it look like this? You could have made it look like this, or this, and also this, whatever, you know? In this show, Clark's character is well and nicely shined on. Throughout the episode, it would change between Clark and Lois, and it was nice to see both perspectives. I like seeing Clark struggle with his identity and goofing around with his friend throughout the episode. Writing wise, I don't want to guess, but this Clark seemed to care about his life, about his friend, and what he's building. But he's afraid of what they'll think of him. Compared to other iteration of the character where he seemed to care more about Superman, this one cared more about his human life. He's not a Clark Kent that will just stay quiet because he wants to stay undercover and hide his identity. No, when he learned that Lois lied to him, he started to argument with her on trust because it genuinely hurted him. He might not have been a Superman at that moment, but he still valued the truth. Also at one point when he woke up to live as like a normal person and he had to stop to help a cat, he later tried to reassure himself that he had to save that cat, that there was no choice, and that it was like the last time he used his power for this day, clearly showing sign that he was kind of worried that his power would, ruin his day and fucked up his life as Clark Kent. So yeah, the way things goes, maybe later on the show Superman action of saving people will undermine the life that Clark Kent is living, like arriving late on the job or missing an important day for a friend and stuff like that. And I have to say I'm happy that there is a focus on Clark and his human life. It's about time that Superman do more than just save the day. He need to have a life.
Now a really interesting change to the character is the new power scaling of the show. Superman is in most media extremely powerful to a point that most challenge can be bypassed by his strength. For example, the robot in the first episode of this show wouldn't hurt him at all, but Parasite or Livewire would. But in this version from the first 2 episodes, it seems like they decide to make Superman's power work like that of an anime character, where he get power up by his emotion. And if that is the case, I think it's a really interesting choice and a smart one at that. Because now Clark have room to grow when it comes to power, and in a different way than what we are used to see. Normally it's all about learning to use his power, like learning laser or learning how to fly. And once he learn it, he basically is Superman and that's it. But in this version it seems like he can't tap into his full power yet, meaning that we could get a nice evolution of the character's strength as the story goes on, allowing him to fight all sorts of opponents. But from what we've seen in the first 2 episodes and what I think will be the norm in this season, it seemed like he needed an emotional trigger to power up, which is really cool because now instead of just having Sue buddy those robots, we can have a nice emotional hook to the fight before he buddies those robots. Anyway, so far I like the way the power is handled. I mean, he's just starting being Superman after all.
And this is the thing with this show, it can use hindsight to tease future part of the story they couldn't when making the OG comic and the older episodic cartoon. We know Jor-El is trying to teach Clark to be a hero, like it is in the comic, but they can still tweak this plot point in many different directions that it can still stay fresh, like Smallville that had a cool twist where Jor-El didn't want Clark to have an alter ego at all, he wanted him to always be Superman. They could also introduce a bunch of villains before like they become villain, like have the guy that become Metallo be in the show beforehand.
So overall the show looked really good so far and we would definitely recommend it. So with that said, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to help the channel. Peace out.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small, way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small, way back before we blew it all. Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping